Well, it's Monday, you know what that means. All of the other awesome brawlers have been knocked from the battle judgment, and Magnus has finally become a true brawler? I am Haru. Welcome to my review of episode 23 of Geogan Rising. So, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen this episode yet, go back and watch it now. But if you have, sit back, relax, and enjoy my review of Geogan Rising episode 23.
The first part is True Power. We continue from last episode when Dan and Magnus are transported to a dark forest. Yeah, we already know this is the same place where the awesome brawlers turned into children. I can already tell what's going to happen.
What is the big idea with you becoming Velok's ally?
I may have joined his team, but I'm not his ally. I want to settle our score on the ultimate stage. That is the only reason I'm even here.
Does that mean you don't care what happens to Earth and Vestroya, Magnus?
That has nothing to do with me.
Huh? If you don't care what happens to Earth and Vestroya when they're separated, and you're fully aware of it, then Magnus, you kind of come off as a real villain here. Not even 2 minutes in, and Magnus already comes off as really incredibly stupid. If Earth and Vestroya get separated, you're not going to be able to battle anymore, which is what your character is written around, being a passionate brawler. Why risk it? Why risk having Earth and Vestroya separated just so you can win against Dan Kouzo? There are other circumstances you can do this in. Come on, Magnus, you're smarter than this. Hiya!
So Dan and Magnus argue, and then they get turned into children, with Julius and Jonah's voices being slightly altered. The two get attacked by the giant Venus flytraps and fall into a river where they are being sucked into a whirlpool, and Magnus nearly drowns. Really nearly killing characters is a pretty recurring theme nowadays. The whirlpool somehow takes them to Darkavia, where Dan and Magnus return to normal, and for some reason there is never an explanation as to how they got there in the first place, and for some reason all that time feels significantly wasted. Also, when Magnus turns into a child, his mask is gone, but then when he turns back to normal, it's back right on his face. But they get back to Darkavia in time for the next round, where it's Lightning versus Magnus. Oh, this ought to be good. Obviously, Nilius easily overpowers Frascal, and Lightning has to summon Montrapod to help out, where we get Will Bowser's only line for the episode.
Take him down!
Montrapod used Dig, Nilius' attack missed. When Nilius is in trouble, Magnus can all of a sudden hear Nilius' voice. This was actually a very touching moment that we get to witness. Magnus finally becoming a Bakugan Brawler and being able to fully understand Nilius. We've seen Magnus' entire journey through 3 seasons and his desire to be a true Bakugan Brawler, and now that he is able to do that, it's just so cool to finally see.
It must have something to do with the river water in the forest. It changed you.
Okay, does that mean Dan is younger now too, or does he have to nearly drown in that water for him to de-age? Also, this river water thing is kind of an unsatisfying way to have Magnus become a true Bakugan Brawler. We've seen his journey through multiple seasons. He kind of deserved to have a more meaningful way to become a brawler, like maybe the Travel Stone could have granted him the ability to speak to Nilius or something. It kind of undermines that episode where Magnus fights Storm, you know?
Did you two help me because my device forced you to?
We helped because we're partners.
Though, because he can fully communicate with Nilius, Magnus defeats Montrapod, showing the power that Magnus has if he is able to communicate with his Bakugan. This also shows the power of the bond Nilius has with Magnus. It seems like if they can really talk to each other, they will become unstoppable to the point of even besting a Geogan. You know what I also picked up on? Julius's voice for Magnus gets a lot more intense after this, which is a really nice touch. Magnus is now a lot more confident in battles now that he can talk to Nilius and doesn't feel like he has a disadvantage because of lack of communication. So now he feels more strong, and as such, we the audience can feel it as well. Strong voice performances make all the difference. Even still, how the writing was handled that led up to this could have been handled a little better. I'd much rather have Magnus gain this ability through experience instead of convenience. After Magnus knocks Lightning out of the tournament, we continue with Showdown in Darkavia, where Dan and Drago are looking for the Darkavia artifact. Meanwhile, Magnus is fighting Leah next, which seems cruel having Nilius fight 2 matches in a row. Okay, now we're having the same issues as we had last episode, the constant cutting back to Dan and Drago. I would have preferred it if they finished this part and then moved on to Magnus and Leah, but whatever. Dan and Drago reach a dead end and meet Ninja Ton, voiced by Nilius' voice actor Corey Doran, who I guess is the gatekeeper of the Darkavia artifact. He practically guides Dan and Drago on how to get the artifact, kind of like Red Skull from Infinity War, but this comes off as a dark side cave from Empire Strikes Back kind of way. This cave is supposed to be a test for people that go in to overcome the weaknesses inside their hearts. In this case, Dan and Drago have to really rely on their bond to see the illusion of each other. I really like this because the opposites of Dan and Drago are being presented very well by Jonah Weinberg and Jason Deline. When it comes to voice acting, the personalities is what you have to try to project. You can see the contrasting personalities from both the real versions and the illusions. Even though they're playing the same character, they're not actually playing the same personality. This Dan is way too overconfident and cocky, well, more than normal, and this Drago doesn't seem to care about the other Bakugan if Earth and Vestroia are separated.
And there's no way we'd lose to any of those others, so victory is ours.
Who cares about the other Bakugan? As long as I stick around, that's all that matters, right?
Oh yeah, Magnus and Leah summon Geogons if anyone cares. Anyway, back to the Dark Cave, Dan and Drago knows that they are both being talked to by illusions, and we get this awesome scene where they punch the mirror from both sides. You know, despite my criticisms for the writing of this season, they really are truly developing the relationship between Dan and Drago being absolutely strong. They get the Darkavia artifact, and just the Pyrus one is left to go. Meanwhile, Hyenix and Arachnia punched each other out, but Magnus manages to beat Leah still. Magnus managed to knock out 3 awesome brawlers in total from the tournament. Jesus Christ! So Dan is the only awesome brawler left in the tournament, and the episode ends with Magnus promising to beat Dan in the finals.
So that was episode 23 of Geogan Rising. Let me know what your rating of the show was in the comments down below.
This was an alright episode. We got Magnus' character art wrapped up. Dan and Drago's artifact hunting tests were impressive to watch as always. I guess the action was alright, and we're actually pretty close to the end of the season. Honestly, I think they could have handled Magnus becoming a true brawler a lot more better, not to mention his reasons for being a part of this makes a little to no sense from a character perspective. But honestly, it really is hard to ignore that Magnus finally being able to fully communicate with Nilius is such a touching moment and establishes the strength that they have when they are able to communicate. It is really awesome to see, and it's very emphasized with Nilius' fight with Fenneca in one scene as well, and also the intense voice performance by Julius Cho. Overall, the episode was alright, but the writing and long-term storytelling could have been handled better. So, I'll give this a Baku good. Thank you for watching this review of Geogan Rising. Be sure to press the thumbs up and give us a subscribe for more awesome Bakugan content. I've been Haru Ren, and thank God for Rapid Fire. Bye!